Hey everybody, this video is going to go over the PowerPoint on paragraph coherence. So we have already looked at paragraph focus, making sure that the paragraph sticks to one idea, one topic. We've looked at topic sentences and supporting evidence, the supporting sentences of the paragraph. And now we want to talk about coherence, because at the same time that you are generating those specific details that you need to support the main point of the paragraph, you also want to be thinking about how to organize and connect those details. Everything in the paragraph must cohere or stick together. And when that happens, your reader will be able to move smoothly through the paragraph from one piece of supporting information to the next. It basically allows your reader to understand how you're getting from one thought to the next, how they all fit together, the progression of your train of thought. So you really want to work on that. A few things that we're going to look at that can help you create cohesion in your paragraph are methods of organization of the details, transition words, and other types of connecting words that can help create that sense of cohesion and allowing things to stick together. So one thing that you can do is think about how you want to organize the supporting details of the paragraph. Depending on the topic, one way that you might be able to do that is to use time to organize the details. So if you are going through a list of things, first this is done, or first this happened, next this, after that, you just use those time signal words to help you create the flow. You can also use emphatic order. So emphatic order is basically kind of thinking along the lines of you save the best for last, or you save the most important for last. So your least interesting or your smallest detail is placed early on, and then you work your way down to the most interesting or most important. That is also how you can organize an entire essay. You can place your paragraphs, your first main point of your paragraph, or your first main point of your essay would be like your least convincing, or the one that has the least amount of supporting evidence for it, or just the one that you think will help to start convince readers, but isn't like the big whammy that's really gonna, convince them. And then you work your way down to the most important point, and you save the best for last. You do that within a paragraph as well. So time order, emphatic order, whatever seems to fit the best for the topic of that paragraph, but you want some sort of logical organization to your thoughts, to your ideas in the paragraph. Right? So in addition to how you organize the details, because, okay, you've made the choice and now you have them organized in a way that makes the most sense, but you still need to connect the details. One way that we connect details is through transitions. We've already talked a little bit about transitions with topic sentences, but we use transitions within paragraphs as well. Okay, so the transitions, again, they help the reader follow your train of thought. It helps connect the ideas, or helps bridge those ideas. And there's two major types of transition words. There's addition words and time words. There are others, but these are the two that are used most often. So some examples of addition words. One, first, first of all, another, also, next, in addition, finally. Those are words that add on to each thought. So you begin with the first point, then you add on another or a second point, and so on and so forth until you get to your last or final point. So those little, addition words, those transitions, help connect the train of thought. And I have some examples on slide 5 here to kind of show you why those transition words are so important. So we have an example here that says, a drinking problem can destroy a person's life. It can tear a family apart. We can understand, for the most part, what those two ideas are trying to express. But listen to how much better it sounds when you add in a transition word. A drinking problem can destroy a person's life. In addition, it can tear a family apart. So instead of having the two thoughts side by side, we've bridged them. They're connected now, right? Another example, one way to lose friends is always to talk and never to listen. A way to end friendships is to borrow money and never pay it back. How about one way to lose friends is to always talk and never to listen. Another way to end friendships is to borrow money and never pay it back. So again, instead of the thoughts just being side by side, we've connected them. What you don't want to have happen is to be able to switch the order and it not make a difference. There's a logical order to why you put the first thought first and the second thought second. So tie them together so that it is clear that that's the order they should have been in the first place. You never want to just be able to rearrange things and it still read exactly the same. Those transition words clue us into the order of your thoughts. So we also said that another very common type of transition word are the time words. And this is pretty self-explanatory. Before, first, second, third, next, while, later, after, finally, then. Those types of words indicate time. So we have some examples of this as well. So every week my uncle studies the food ads to see which stores have the best specials. He clips all the coupons. It just sounds so dry, kind of boring. Let's connect those ideas. Every week my uncle studies the food ads to see which stores have the best specials. Next, he clips all the coupons. Now it sounds like it all goes together. Or, Carmen took a very long shower. There was no hot water left for anyone else in the house. Or, Carmen took a very long shower. After that, there was no hot water left for anyone else in the house. So again, it just connects the thoughts. And that's what you want to shoot for. On slide 7, I have some other kinds of transition words. So, addition and time are very common, but then we've also got comparison, also in the same way, likewise, similarly. Or if you're making a concession, granted or naturally. If you're making a contrast, there's a contradiction or some sort of difference. Although, yet, despite, even though, however, nevertheless, on the other hand, though. We use those types of words a lot as well. If we're trying to emphasize a thought, we might use the transition words certainly or indeed, in fact, of course. If we're pointing out an example, giving an example of something, for example, or for instance, or in other words, specifically, thus. We also use certain transition words to sort of summarize some ideas. All in all, or altogether, in other words, therefore, to put it differently. So be familiar with all different kinds of transition words and the context that they are used in. You don't just want to refer to a list of transition words and just randomly pick one. You want to make sure that you're picking one that is expressing the relationship between the thoughts correctly, right? So you have to be aware of that. And These aren't lists that you have to memorize. These should be words that you already know and are already familiar with, and you probably use them in conversation all the time. Now you just have to make sure that you're including them in your writing so that your thoughts are tied together there, just like they would be if you were speaking, right? I have an example that we're going to look at that uses a few other devices for creating cohesion. Repeated words, pronouns, and synonyms. If you can repeat a key word to tie ideas together, that helps create the flow. And not just useless repetition, but repetition with a purpose. So like it says, repeated key words. Pronouns, obviously they are the words that take the place of a noun. So instead of saying Jenny, 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 you can use she or her. That helps create the flow as well because you're not constantly repeating the name unnecessarily. So you have to kind of get used to figuring out when is it good to repeat, when is it actually taking away from the quality of writing to be repetitive. And then synonyms. Synonyms are words that basically mean the same thing. Use those to your advantage too, because those will help you keep the useless repetition out of your writing. So it really is a balance between using the repetition with a purpose that is effective and figuring out ways to decrease the repetition that takes away from the writing. Okay? So I have this sample that starts on page 9, or slide 9, and we have a paragraph to the right about ancient Egyptians. And I'm going to read it, and then I'm going to have a couple things to say about it. So it says, the ancient Egyptians were masters of preserving dead people's bodies by making mummies of them. Mummies several thousand years old have been discovered nearly intact. The skin, hair, teeth, fingernails, and toenails and facial features of the mummies were evident. It is possible to diagnose the disease they suffered in life, such as smallpox, arthritis, and nutritional deficiencies. The process was remarkably effective. Sometimes apparent were the fatal afflictions of the dead people. A middle-aged king died from a blow to the head, and polio killed a child king. Mummification consisted of removing the internal organs, applying natural preservatives inside and out, and then wrapping the body in layers of bandages. So when you read that paragraph, it's not a total washout. It's not a total fail. You get most of what you're supposed to understand out of the paragraph. But there's no coherence. It's not pleasing to read. And we might actually miss some of the more important points because they weren't ordered in a logical way. They weren't tied together with those transitions in an effective way. For instance, it starts talking about that the Egyptians were masters of preserving dead people's bodies by making mummies of them. At that point, it would make sense to tell us what the process consisted of. Instead, they wait until the very end of the paragraph to explain what the process was. You have to think about little details like that. Where would it make most sense to put this point? It's not always easy, but it's your writing, they're your ideas and your thoughts, so you should be able to figure out the best way to order the ideas in the paragraph, right? So, on slide 10, we have a revised version of the paragraph, and we're using some organizing and connecting methods. So, anything that's in italics is a pronoun or some sort of repeated key word or key phrase. Anything that's in bold is a transition word that was added in. And anything that's underlined indicates parallel structure. If you don't know what parallel structure is, you think of parallel lines, right? They go side by side but never touch. Parallel structure in writing refers to having the same form or the same format for ideas. I can give you a really easy example. If I said, last weekend I went running, swimming, and for a hike. You understand what I said. You got the information, but it just didn't sound right because, running, swimming, for a hike, or on a hike. Shouldn't it be running, swimming, and hiking? Shouldn't I keep the same structure throughout? So if you can use parallel structure, it kind of helps create the pattern, and it creates a rhythm that makes the writing much easier to read, much more pleasing, and when you create that kind of pattern, it actually helps the reader remember information better. Think about all the patterns and rhyming and repetition that's used for young kids to teach them things. It's kind of the same idea, it's just elevated to more adult level, but it's the same idea. All right, so italics are pronouns or repeated words and phrases. Bold indicates transition words that have been added. The underlining indicates the parallel structure, and we have reorganized the information as well. So, here's the new version. The ancient Egyptians were masters of preserving dead people's bodies by making mummies of them. In short, mummification consisted of removing the internal organs, applying natural preservatives inside and out, and then wrapping the body in layers of bandages. And the process was remarkably effective. Indeed, mummies several thousand years old have been discovered nearly intact. Their skin, hair, teeth, fingernails, and toenails and facial features are still evident. Their diseases in life, such as smallpox, arthritis, and nutritional deficiencies, are still diagnosable. Even their fatal afflictions are still apparent. A middle-aged king died from a blow on the head. A child king died from polio. So not only did reorganizing the information help, but all of those transition words helped, the parallel structure helped, the pronouns and repeated phrases, those helped. Now the paragraph reads so smoothly, and I'm going to walk away from it remembering almost every detail because the cohesion allowed that to happen. Okay? So, when you're writing a paragraph, you have to focus on the unity first, making sure that it sticks to one topic and that you don't go off topic in the paragraph. Once you've made sure that you have paragraph focus, then you go back and work on that topic sentence. And if it's a paragraph within an essay or, multiple paragraphs, then you need a transition to go with that topic sentence, right, to guide your reader from one paragraph to the next. You need to make sure that the supporting evidence in the paragraph is on point. You need enough of it, and you need it to be specific. Once you have all that, then you can work on coherence. And eventually you might get to a point where the coherence is coming pretty naturally. You're automatically, using transition words of some sort. You're thinking about the organization, and maybe you use some pre-writing techniques, for the paragraph, and you know the best way to order the information. But until that point, check each paragraph for coherence, right? If you're not sure it's there, check it. See if everything is ordered in the most logical way. See if your thoughts are tied together, if everything goes smoothly. If we can look at it and just based on the organization and the transition words that you've used, we understand how you're getting from thought A to thought B to thought C and so on, right? So make sure that the paragraph has coherence. And if you've done all of those things, then you probably have a pretty good paragraph to work with. But if you have any questions about any of the elements of paragraphs that we've talked about, please let me know.